Mr. Denver's here with me again, and we're excited to be able to share with you what's become a passion for us. It's what we do, it's all we do. Well, it's all I do anyway. Bottom line is, we love helping families put peace back in their home. Now, we're going to talk about some things tonight that we believe is the core principles of being successful. This slide here, we want to give you a warning because Mr. Denver, we've been doing this a long time, and we've seen a whole bunch of parents caught up in a storm that was about to kill them. I'm talking about this parenting storm where a kid is as big as they are telling mom and dad what they're going to do or not do. We don't want you to ever get to that point. We know for a fact when these kids become adolescents and they have had it their way for 8, 10, 12, 14 years, changing that behavior is going to be one of the hardest things a parent will ever do. And you better be tough in order to do it. But let me tell you this, we will never stop helping parents that have children that are over 10 years old. But our primary focus is on reaching the young parent, trying to keep them from ever having to deal with that parenting storm. Now, if your kid's 11 to 17, changing destructive adolescence is what you want to get. And you can do that at the Parent Help Center. Now, that particular curriculum, it is mandatory for a trained facilitator to teach this book. And there's 16 units in that book. Can easily go online and coach you through every unit on what to do and what not to do. But we're trying to keep you from ever having to use that book by Loving Solutions. And that book is absolutely a standalone program, but it's only 10 units. And so we want you to go to our website, theparenthelpcenter.com, whichever age group you're in, purchase it. It will change your life. In fact, Mr. Denver, if it doesn't change our life, what's going to happen?
Hey, well, it will certainly spill over. If it doesn't change your life, it's going to cause other issues that you could have certainly avoided. And often we don't want to react, we don't want to respond to anything unless something bad is happening. And Glenn, the purpose of this is 10 and below is to certainly get our parents in before the problem begins, being proactive in doing this parenting thing. And if we can ever get parents in the mind frame of this, then we really will be able to help that child in their teenage years, because now at this point they'll have the parents will have the confidence, the children will have confidence in the parent to parent them properly. And we know for a fact that when children act up, it's because they don't feel safe. They don't have any feeling safe or boundaries in their life to make them feel safe. And we know kids love structure. And so if we don't get intentional and be persistent upfront with parenting, this is what Loving Solution actually does. It helps us to head off the curb before the storm happens. And so it's important, parents. And Glenn said it best. We've been doing this for many, many years. And we know for a fact that when parents start early, they get better results. And parenting is a verb. We will always say that it's a verb, and it's going to require active parenting in the process. You gotta be in it. You can't just give, latchkey kid days are over. And unfortunately, that happens still. But if we don't get a hold of this process early, then we're going to end up losing the next generation. And so, and we've got a generation that's vastly going downhill right now, Glenn. And
Yep,
so we got to be intentional with this.
absolutely. We live here in Florida, so we've seen some storms come through. I can promise you. But guys, when that storm is in your house, oh yeah, and they're knocking holes in your walls, they're kicking doors in, they're destroying your peace. You don't want to do that. That's
Yeah.
why Loving solutions is paramount, that we get to the young parent to keep them from ever having to deal with the storms of parenting. Now,
Yes.
we believe these are the core principles for being successful. Number one at the top of the list is respect. Guys, if there's no respect in the home for your authority as their parent, there's no place for that relationship to go but down. No place for it to go. So, I want to introduce you to common sense parenting and what we believe can help you establish who is the adult in this relationship. Parenting isn't about perfection, it's about consistency, clarity, and connection. Well, what's up this connection thing? Well, I remember a man who said, I had all the rules, but I had no relationship with my son. Your men have to obey you. I don't. And guys, the war was on. That's what we don't want to happen to you. So parenting isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, clarity, and connection. No fun having a home that you can't talk to your kid. Go ahead, Denver.
And Glenn, doing the very best we can is really where it's all about. Um, I've heard often people say, well, parenting didn't come with a book. Well, it did actually come with the Bible. And now we have the Parent Project that kind of gives practical advice to parents for pretty much every situation that they will run into. Other parents have dealt with it. You're not alone. You're not the only parent who dealt with a child who was oppositional or strong will per se. You're not the only one, and we have to you have to be willing to do what is necessary to save that child. Often we've actually seen parents who quit on their children, and that word consistency means you cannot quit. Oh, I've tried it and it didn't work. No, you got to be consistent. You got to be persistent in your efforts to raise a productive child in society today, because there's so many influences out there to get that child's attention, and you will lose that child to the world. And it's very sad and unfortunately that it's happening all over. And then clarity, you know sit down, have conversations. It's the consistency, it's the clarity of communication, and then it's the connection that it's not always going to be a challenge, but in the non-challenging times, that's when you show the love to its full capacity. But you show love even when it's challenging, but also when it's not challenging. Let that child know that you love them no matter what. And parents, kids, I've heard kids say to parents, well, they didn't do all they could. Well, they did the best they could.
Yeah.
And that's all we're asking from the parents that we coach, that do the very best you can. And when you have questions, please reach out, because you're not alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. The old adage goes, it says it takes a village to raise children, and we're that village. And
Yeah.
I told Glenn many years ago, we wanted to create the largest empowered parent group in the nation to be able to help parents out with the basic common sense approach, grassroots parenting. It is absolutely necessary because, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are some parents who have gone exactly you're dealing with right now. I
Mhm.
promise you, we see them all the time. And all you have to do is tap into this resource that we're providing, and the program that Glenn has provided for parents for the last 24 years, and me have been working with it for 16 years. And it's very important that you tap into these resources so that you can have a successful parenting journey and you don't get worn out.
So we have set this up in 30-minute segments. You may have 30 minutes that you can spend learning how to be a better parent. You may have longer. And if you do, you just go to the next session, because we'll pick it up at this, because we want to meet you where you are. Now, Common Sense Parenting came from a program called the Parent Project, not the Kid Project, the Parent Project. And the bottom line is, it is the number one court mandated parenting curriculum in the nation. There's none better. So we've taken that curriculum and put together a program called Loving Solutions so that you situations. Now, the foundation, as I've already said, is respect. That's where it all begins. Anger management. That means you can't control your kid. If you could, there would be no parent needing parenting programs, but the world's full of them. So we're going to show you another way to get this kid to do what they don't want to do without screaming, yelling, arguing, and fighting. And then a work ethic. Guys, our kids are lazy. You know it. I know it. And the bottom line is, whose fault is it? It's mama and daddy's fault because they were never trained to be respectful, to control their temper, and to have a work ethic. That is common sense parenting.
And Glenn, to echo that, it's so important that when that parent is faced with respect issues and anger management issues, they've got to really control themselves. It, like you said, it's the parent's responsibility to model this behavior. You can't. There's no way around it. And so, if a child see you being respectful, and you then teach them how to be respectful, it's what you say and then what you do that's going to create the law of first truth in that child's mind. And so that's what's going to stick. And you have to be consistent with this. You just can't, cuss somebody out and then expect your child not to cuss people out. It's not going to happen. If you smoke, they're going to probably smoke. If you drink, they're probably going to drink. Whatever you do as a parent, that child's behavior is going to be modeled based on what you give them. And so if you're loud and obnoxious, rude, they will be loud, obnoxious, and rude for the most part. Now, there's always exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, that's kind of how it is. So we have to really model that. We have to model being respectful. We have to model controlling our temper and anger and the words that come out of our mouth. And then we have to show a work ethic and let them work alongside us to help them develop the same work ethic or better than us. And so it's just important, parents. So be mindful. This program is not for the faint at heart parent. We have got to take the responsibility upon ourselves and say, I need to do better as a parent, and I'm going to do better. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to get it, and then I'm going to model these. I'm going to put into practice what I've learned. And when we do this, oh my goodness. I mean, all these parenting books out there, and half of them are written by people who have never had any children. Our program, our curriculum is written by parents for parents. That means these parents have actually put in writing their information so that Bud and Roger can actually publish this data to be able to put it into practice. The common sense things that every parent can do. And it's just that important. So you learn better and then you do better. Glenn?
Absolutely. So, why do these principles matter? Principles are respect, anger management, and work ethic. Number one, these values absolutely shape relationships, long term success, and the workplace. You heard me right. It's not just the home, but it impacts the classroom, it impacts the workplace, it impacts your marriage. But you know what? Home is absolutely the first training ground for future employees, leaders, and citizens. If they don't learn it at mama's house, there's a good chance they're not going to learn it someplace else. It's our job to train up a child in the way they should go. Respect at home. Teach kids to listen, speak kindly, and to honor boundaries. You have to model respectful disagreement and empathy. Respect builds trust and emotional safety in the family, as they're going to learn more from watching you than they will ever learn from you talking to them. Right, Denver?
Absolutely. And that's what you were saying earlier. I mean, they're teaching the children to listen, speak kindly. And these are things that we have to intentionally do and give situations at home where that child will have to model this. This is why we instituted in our home the family circle, the non-judgmental circle, where we come together as a family and we have our devotional times, and then we give each person undivided attention, and everybody must listen to that person, no matter what they have to say. It can be very smart stuff or very, not so smart things, but everybody deserves to be heard. And that you teach that child to listen and you teach them to respond. And then those are the boundaries that we set in that particular meeting, that everybody must listen to one another. We each person go around and have the opportunity to speak. And then when you model, um, and then when you have a disagreement, this is why you come. Then you have to teach your child, come together and let's talk about this. We don't have to always agree, but we can learn how to agree to disagree in a successful way. We don't have to fight or destroy each other because we have disagreements. Because in some instances, especially in the minor things, um, neither here nor there. What are we going to have for dinner? I mean, that's a minor thing. What you believe in, and what is those major things are what's going to should be driving your direction as far as when you teach your children to have those disagree, to have agree to disagree, and have empathy, being showing, put that, letting that child sit in your place, or helping them to understand how to look at some view from another person's point of view, instead of always having to, to fight against what somebody else is saying. No, you don't have to do that. You simply give an opportunity, give that child an opportunity to model empathy, and you have to model empathy. In other words, you could say something like, "Hey, you know, um, I understand your point. You might not agree with it, but you can understand their point." And that's a statement that you mean, yes, son, I understand your point, but here's what we're gonna do. And that's teaching that child. That's parenting 101, teaching that child how to deal with disagreements and show empathy. And then respect. Can't say too much about respect. It builds trust and family safety and unity. When you respect each other's boundaries and you respect each other in their place, in their position, that means you are now taking upon yourself to put yourself in that person's shoes, have an understanding from where they're coming from, no matter what, because you respect that person. You may not like what they had to say or agree with what they say, but you respect what they said because they're saying it. You respect the person. And so that process goes from home into the workplace, into the world. Everywhere you go, these rules have to be modeled. And it's very important that you put that, you teach that child this, because you're not raising children, you're raising adults. You're putting that adult, giving that child all the tools they need to be in an adult relationship, in the workplace, in relationship with male, female, and so forth and so on.
And that's what we're talking about next.
Hey, the
Respect
workplace.
in the workplace. Employees who learn respect at home show up with professionalism. They collaborate, communicate effectively, and handle conflict maturely. Respectful workers contribute to healthy team dynamics and leadership potential. You can't have a workplace with no respect. It'll be totally chaotic. The bottom line is every person needs their space and every person needs to be treated respectfully, no matter how you might disagree. And disagreements happen in the workplace. I know, I've been there. But how you handle it is what we have to teach kids at home. Mr.
Yeah,
Devlin?
absolutely. I dealt with a situation on my job recently, and there was a huge disagreement. But I didn't become disagreeable. Why? Because I learned to model the behavior I expect from others. I may not like it, but it contributes, the lesson says here, to healthier team dynamic. What is your intended? What is your purpose at this point? To show your disdain in a situation, or is it you trying to get the project done? That's what you're trying to do. So what happens a lot of time with parents, they lose sight of the objective. What is the parent objective? The parent's objective is to raise healthy, productive citizens to be in the world. That's what they're trying to do. Healthy, productive citizens. What our goal is for parents is to raise healthy, productive citizens. And when when parents recognize their objective and hold to that, then they will also make sure that child stay respectful in every situation. And you cannot allow yourself to get caught up in fighting and showing disdain at work or any place else. You've got to learn how to handle disagreements and successfully. And so when you communicate your issues, communicate them because you're trying to help. You want to help the team. This is not just talking about in the home. You want to help the home. You want to help the team at work. You want to help everybody be better and do better. So parents must never lose sight of the objective of giving that child what they need, raising a productive citizen. Never lose sight of that.
And so parents must model being calm. You must learn how to control yourself before your kid will ever learn how to control themselves. So now we're talking about anger management at home. Children need tools to name, understand, and regulate their emotions. Well, that's something Mr. Denver's going to have to explain because he's the one that's got the mental health counseling degree. Parents must model calm response and teach coping strategies, and discipline is most effective when delivered without rage or shame or any kind of anger. In fact, we say non emotional. I'm telling you, if your kids see they've pushed the button, guess what they're going to do tomorrow? Push that button again. And they're going to push it over and over until the button doesn't work anymore.
It's so important, Glenn. What you just said, it's quite powerful. But in addition to that, we must learn that we talk a whole lot about self-esteem, and I'm okay with that. But what a family, what a child really needs is self-discipline. They really have to be disciplined. And when they have this self discipline, they're able to have self esteem as a result of that because self discipline allows you to be consistent in accomplishing a mission and goal. One of the greatest things I think you've done, Glenn, even at our camps, is that we give the child opportunity to do something. We don't rob that child of the ability to accomplish something. We give them tactical courses. We give them work projects that they can complete, and they can feel good about that. And that takes discipline to be consistently doing that. And in the process, upon completion, self-esteem is built. But we put so much effort and emphasis on self-esteem that we forgot about self-discipline. We need to discipline that child. There's no way around it. If we live a disciplined life, then self-esteem is a byproduct of that in and of itself.
Absolutely. Anger management in the workplace. Adults who manage anger well avoid impulsive decisions and workplace drama. And nobody wants to be in a workplace drama. It sucks. They handle stress, criticism, and setbacks with composure. That's what you got to do if you ever want to be in management. Emotional regulation is key to leadership, customer service, and team morale. Guys, if you're in a management position and you can't control your own anger, you won't be in a management position very long. I can promise you that. It's key to training up a child to be able to control their emotions.
I want to kind of address something, Glenn, because we here's what we deal with a lot of. We deal with a lot of divorced families. We deal with parents in different homes. And so this anger management, it has to be done at both mama's house and daddy's house. And it has to be done well rounded. It can't just be, one area of your life. Management of yourself and how you see things, emotional regulation has to be. But see, oftentimes because we have this parent that don't like the other parent, they pit that child against the parents like that. They tell them things that create anger in them. Instead of trying to teach that child how to emotionally regulate, how to deal with situations, if dad is not sufficient, if mom is not sufficient, why would the parent, the custodial parent say, hey, your father's no good or your mother's no good? That creates an internal thing inside of that child to just destroy them. And so I wanted to kind of deal with that because many of our parents we have most of our parents who are single moms or broken families, and you gotta teach that child to love and to control their anger no matter what the circumstance or situation that they're in, because they're going to go into a real world that's not going to care anything about them. And if a child does not understand how to control their anger in situations when things don't go well, oh my goodness, that's what's going to they'll destroy their own self. They will lose themselves in the world. So teaching a child how to manage their own um, emotional regulation, their own anger management, teach them how to keep their mouth shut and don't speak unless you got something to say is really important and something important to say. And handling stress is critical. We got to learn how to teach them how to handle stress and deal with setbacks in life. A setback is simply things that don't go to how they want it to go, and maintain composure. And that's what I was telling you earlier when I was dealing with a situation at work. They contacted me and I was like, well, it is what it is, and keep it moving.
Well, this is something that I think is paramount for our children. If they don't learn a work ethic at home, if they don't learn to work for the things they want, and everybody's just giving them this stuff, you're creating a monster. Chores, responsibilities, and follow through teach accountability. This kid needs to know when the supper dishes are done, it's time to go wash them. Praise effort, not just outcomes. When they're learning how to wash a dish, when they're learning how to make a bed, be patient. They're not perfect. They've got a lot to learn. In fact, I probably don't make beds as good as my wife does. But the bottom line is we got to let these kids know that they are doing a good job. Show them how to do a better job. Help your kid understands the value of persistence and delayed gratification. Oh, that's a big thing, isn't it, Mr. Denver?
That's that self-discipline we were talking about, Glenn. And that delaying gratification and being able to just go through the process, be consistent and persistent in the process, and work for what they want. You know, see the goal at the end of the tunnel. Is what we really want our children to know. You're working for certain things, but then it's also important for them, like you said, to do it well. So praising effort helps that child to be motivated to do a better job. And then you come alongside them, coaching them, helps them to become even better. Like you said, I don't make the bed as well either, but when you teaching children, you teach them to do the very best they can, give it everything they got. And no matter what they're doing, no matter what it is, you know, the Bible says it like this: to be faithful over a few things, he says, I'll make you to rule over many. So if the child is faithful over the small tasks, there may be even bigger tasks that's assigned. Because we all know what the reward for good work is: more work. And that child, when they learn that, but generally in the world, more work also equals most time more pay. And so teaching that child to do a very good job and to work for what they want, it gets rid of that, the world owes me something, the entitlement mentality. It gets rid of it.
Yep.
No, nothing is owed to you. Nothing. You got to work for it and give it everything you got, and hold the children accountable to do the very best they can. And my children come and say, Dad, I didn't get an A on my test. My first question is, did you do the very best you could? And if you did, I'm glad you worked as hard as you could. Now, what can we do better? Can we study more? Can we ask more questions at school? These are things. That's how you praise the effort and then you help the child become better, because we always should be raising the bar, helping them to be the very best they can be in our society. Mr. Grant?
Absolutely. We're not ever going to tell you how to raise your child. You're the adult, you're the parent. But I can tell you one thing, we know what works and we know what doesn't work. And that's what we're going to share with you, what absolutely works. So now we learn work ethic at home. How about the workplace? Employees with strong work ethics are dependable, proactive, and resilient. And let me tell you what else, they get promoted. They take initiative, they meet deadlines, and they grow through challenges. Well, sometimes people get laid off, don't they? Guess who's going to stay? The one
That's
who
right.
has good work ethic. Work ethic is often the difference between surviving and thriving professionally. I guarantee you, if anybody's going to get cut, it's not going to be Glenn Ellison, because I come to work to work. I come there early. I stay late. I'll know that. I let that manager know, if you need anything done, you can depend on me. I am the right hand man. And if the cut comes, somebody's going to go before Mr. Glenn. I'll promise you that. Hey, you ever gone to work sick, not feeling good? Uh huh.
Hey,
Well, that's what a person with a work ethic does. And your kids need to learn that from you, Mr. Denver.
yeah. Don't rob them. Do not rob your children of the ability to achieve, by doing everything for them. Having them develop this work ethic is going to be primary to their success in everything. Whether they go to college, trade school, or whatever, having teaching that child today to do chores helps them propel them through life into adulthood to work hard, physically, mentally, and emotionally, in some cases, to be able to achieve. And we have really, Glenn gave this a good example. We have really taken that away from our children and robbed them to gain the work ethic and the self-discipline they need to achieve in this society. And that's why we've got such an entitlement. Everybody wants somebody to give them something. And no, you don't. Nobody owes you anything. Go out and work hard and get it, and that's how you'll have it. Work hard, save, and saving your money is a discipline, and you got to learn that too. And you may not make much, but you can certainly save a little of what you have and live within your means. I've done it and still doing it. And we have to
Yep.
recognize how valuable that is, a lesson to teach our children. And everybody's not going to have the $150,000, $200,000 job, but you can take what you have and manage it properly and be the very best you can be. And that's what we have to teach our children. And instead of selling them pipe dreams, saying that you're going to be this great person, no, they're going to work. You want them to work to their fullest ability. Every child is different. So stop putting your children in the same boat. They're different and they're not going to achieve. Certain gifts are not going to make you rich. Certain gifts in life are going to help other people, and you may just barely break even. But at least you'll live a fulfilled life because you will have worked in what you're called to do and are doing to help someone else.
Absolutely. Habits built at home become a default behavior at work. It
Hmm.
becomes the default behavior everywhere you go in life.
Yes.
Parenting isn't just about raising kids, it's about shaping future adults. We're not trying to raise a kid. We want to raise them to be productive young adults. Respect, emotional control, and hard work are transferable assets. What do you mean, Glenn? Well, if you raise your kid that way, guess what they're going to do for your grandkids? Raise them the same way.
Amen, brother.
Well, we've gone over 30 minutes, not much, but a little bit. But also want you to know what you can do to help us. Number one, let's support parents with tools, community, and encouragement. How do you do that? You tell them about what you're hearing, what you're watching. Tell them to go to this YouTube channel. That's a QR code you're looking at right now. There's also uh, at the bottom, uh, well, I don't know if you can see that at the bottom. No, you can't. It's not there. I thought I put the link on there, but I'll add it to the cable show later. Watch Success Camp movie on Amazon Prime to see the principles in action. And then we ask you to share our YouTube channel and help us expand and reach the community with common sense parenting. And so, guys, that's all we got tonight. But I can tell you this, there's a whole lot more coming. We've got some great guests scheduled to come. And I think you're going to learn a whole lot about how to be the best parent your kid needs you to be.